Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the Z Gentleman Fantasy Football Podcast. It is draft day. We're going to be talking about our draft selections. Maybe we'll talk about some sleeper picks, some picks we didn't like, talk about who drafted the best, who drafted the worst. And we're going to set the stage for week 1, the NFL season. Stay tuned.
All right, so now that we've kind of covered league history, what happened, who's champion, who's the absolute loser of the entire league, let's go ahead and let's get into this year. Let's talk about our draft, what we were looking at, who we were trying to target, which players we wanted to make sure were on our team, and everything in between. So, being that I won the random selection to choose our own draft position, classic collusion right there, I went ahead and chose the number 2 spot. Now you're asking yourself, why did I choose the number 2 spot? Basically, it comes down to I wanted David Johnson or I wanted Le'Veon Bell. I did not care who I got out of that. So, I went with number 2 because I'll get an earlier pick coming back around the snake. And I figured whoever in the second round is going to be better than Brett, who chose in front of me. So I wanted to make sure that I had Le'Veon Bell on my team or David Johnson because they are absolute studs. And if they do not go 1 and 2 in your draft, I don't even know what to say. If no one takes David Johnson or Le'Veon Bell, first or second overall, they're insane. So I ended up with Le'Veon Bell, Amari Cooper, Todd Gurley, Keenan Allen as my top 4 picks. Super happy with those selections. I can't even believe Keenan Allen fell to the 4th round. I don't think anyone in the league wanted to take Keenan Allen because of his injuries. I think I had him on my team for the last 2 years and was disappointed, obviously. But I figured third time's a charm. Something's going to happen for him. So I feel like I got a steal in the 4th round with Keenan Allen. I was really making sure that I got a solid number 2 running back as well. Seeing that it's the first year of PPR, never done a PPR league before, I was a little worried that that strategy would kind of backfire on me, but definitely very happy with how my draft turned out. Le'Veon, Amari, Todd Gurley, Keenan Allen, Bilal Powell, Danny Woodhead, Diggs, Eifert, Tyrell, everyone down the list. I kind of waited a little too long for a quarterback. I ended up taking Tyrod in the 12th round. Basically, every time I wanted to draft a quarterback, they went like 3 picks ahead of me, so I just kept waiting until I got a quarterback. I was definitely not looking for a quarterback in the 4th round, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round, 8th round. I want to build up my depth as much as I can because you never know who's going to break out in fantasy football. You never know who's going to break out. So I waited all the way till the 12th round, took Tyrod, had him on my team last year for a bit, worked out masterfully. This year it's looking a little shaky now since the Bills are just absolute garbage, but overall, very happy with how my team was drafted. Super excited for the season ahead. So I'll let John take over, talk about I'll let Eric take over and talk about his team and what his thoughts were on his draft.
Thank you, Chris. So I was a little bit further down the list this year for drafting, so I put myself in the 5th position. And compared to previous years, I've drafted, I believe the first year I drafted number 1. And, yes, I did decently well, was able to draft a pretty good team. But as we moved on, I shifted into different positions. This year going to number 5, I knew I was going to be in a position to probably grab one of the top wide receivers off to start. So I had Julio Jones fall to me in the 1st round. So
just insane.
I was able to scoop him up, and as we all know, he's just a phenomenal wide receiver and a good number 1 pick. And then after that, I tell myself that I have good strategies when I draft fantasy football. I've probably been in a combined, and I'm not making this up, 35 plus leagues since I was in high school. I've won like 2 leagues. I need to come up with some better strategies. So, of course,
it's all about confidence.
So I get to the 2nd round, and I go on a limb. I go get Gronk. Now, is he going to be healthy enough to do anything for me? I don't know, because I'm currently in the process of trading him right now. So, and just like that, the league and my team, already is going some turbulence here. But uh, I don't think I took PPR to heart in this draft, because when it comes to my running backs, I had Isaiah Crowell and Spencer Ware as my starters. Well, I'm already down one running back since Spencer Ware suffered that knee injury, and Isaiah Crowell, will lose out some time to Duke Johnson up in Cleveland. So I made it up with hopefully some good picks at wide receiver: Calvin Benjamin, Rashard Matthews. My tight ends, obviously, with Gronk being traded now, I've got Tyler Eifert, and of course, being a Packer fan, I had to pick Martellus Bennett as my team this year. Is Martellus all about it? I think it was only apropos that I take him. And yes, again, this year I did draft 2 defenses. So you know what? It's a strategy that sometimes pays dividends.
You need better strategies, right? That's what you were saying.
Yes, I think that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Sometimes
I need better strategies.
I guess if it happens once or twice, I guess that's sometimes, but very loose definition of sometimes, I'd say.
So, I mean, I go out and I try to get the guys that would be the best in that individual round. If that means sometimes I got to pull a kicker in the 12th or the 13th round, and I'll do it. I tend to make some of the crazier draft picks in our league.
Justin Tucker will score 200 points this year. Put it down.
I would love that. But then again, I think as we all know, the craziest draft pick ever was Drake picking Donovan McNabb with the last pick. Was it 2016, 2015 he picked Donovan McNabb with the last pick in the draft?
Sneaky good. That's all I can say to it. Sneaky good.
Well,
I mean, you never know when he's going to come back and just start slinging the football. So
yeah, I who knows? But anyways, I tend to try to make crazy picks. Sometimes they work. 95% of the time they don't. So maybe one year I'll learn. But it won't start this year, unfortunately. So that's kind of the boat I'm in. We'll see what happens this year. I think John probably wants to chime in right now. I know he's been quiet for a while, and
I don't want to chime in, but I will anyway. A little bit later on in the draft, I'm pick 7. I think I got to choose. I was like the 3rd or the 4th spot to be able to choose. I chose 7, just to get a couple of middle of the road guys instead of picking early and then getting a guy way later in the 2nd round. Had Odell Beckham fall to me at pick 7, which I was pretty happy about.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
I think he's going off at like an average of like 4.5 or 5 right now, or something like that. So I was really happy getting Odell Beckham. Ankle injuries aside, Doug Baldwin in the 2nd round. Then just going down the list, Terrell Pryor Sr., who I think can have like a Pro Bowl season. I know Chris is very angry. I snagged him before he could.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So
then
close.
I go Ty Montgomery, Travis Kelce, Frank Gore, Andrew Luck, Eric Decker, Cam Meredith, Kareem Hunt, CJ. Prozis. I don't even know. Prozis. There we go. Sure, that one. Then Chris Thompson, and then Dan Bailey, and the Steelers D. I mean, we might as well get into it right now. I traded away Kareem Hunt, obviously prior to the Spencer Ware injury, but he would have easily have been the steal of the draft for me, and I traded him away to guess who? Chris.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you, folks.
I don't know why I still keep doing business with Chris. It never works out for me. I get back in that trade. I give up Kareem Hunt and Doug Baldwin for Stephon Diggs and Danny Woodhead.
Seemed like upside guys. Very high
fair
upside guys.
Trade right off the bat. Danny Woodhead in a PPR league is pretty solid when healthy. Stephon Diggs, if the Minnesota offense does anything, it's probably going to go to Stephon Diggs. But yeah, give away Kareem Hunt. He's probably going to be like a top 10 running back this year. So that was fun.
Danny
Uh,
Woodhead finished number 3 as the number 3
yeah,
running
when
back in
healthy,
PPR in 2015. So high
healthy,
upside.
but definitely high
Everyone's when
upside.
healthy.
That's true. That's a good point. My team is falling apart as we speak. Woodhead might not start week one. Odell Beckham, he's in question. I have Andrew Luck. They don't even know when he's going to start again. And then I pick up Flacco to replace him, and he's hurt too. So if I even come close to being competitive with Mark in week one, it will be Cole.
Don't forget that Cam Meredith also lost
Oh
half of
yeah,
his
also
leg.
had Cam Meredith. He's gone
So
off of my team.
yeah,
So
I think combined on your team you have maybe like 2 arms, a leg, and maybe like 3
uh,
torsos.
And a
That's
partridge
basically
in a
7
what.
pear
people,
tree.
Yeah.
7 people on my team listed as questionable or out right now. I'm not happy about my team right now. Just
We
not in
will
a good
pray hard
mood.
for you, John. We will pray hard.
Mark, just take over because my team's a mess.
All right, moving on. Obviously, the league fears me this year because I was handicapped with the last pick in our draft of draft slots. And no surprise, I ended up with the 12th overall pick. So, coming from a late round, you get back to back picks at the end of the odd round, start of the even rounds. And sometimes that can tempt you into reaching for players when you need a certain position. So I came in with that mindset, try to avoid reaching, just try to get the value. Don't worry too much about the positions. Things actually worked out well for me. I was able to load up on running back and receiver early. This year, I'm a big proponent of late tight end and late QB. I think there are a lot of guys that'll be around late in drafts, 8th, 9th, 10th round.
Yeah.
Eric Ebron, Zach Ertz, Kyle Rudolph might make it there for tight ends. Marcus Mariota fell to me, but typically you'd see Matthew Stafford, Andy Dalton go in that range. So I'm a big proponent of waiting on those guys, trying to get somebody late around the 8th to 10th rounds. Draft broken at 12, J.J. at 13. Receiver. I think they should be in for years about like we saw last year. Hopefully J.J. can be a little more consistent. That team should feed him the rock plenty of times per game. Definitely a run-first offense. And then Cutler will be slinging the ball, so maybe that'll help open things up a little bit. Jordy Nelson, Aaron Rodgers, hoping for a big season from him. I started to shoot for the moon when I saw who was on the board for me at 3 and 4 at the turn there. Allen Robinson was still on the board. He's a guy that kind of intrigues me. Obviously, a disappointment last year. Left a sour taste in people's mouths after being first-round pick. So fell to me in the 3rd round. I thought that was good value. Bortles should sling the ball towards him plenty of times. Not too much else. Not too much other talent in that passing game. They got Leonard Fournette, so hopefully that can open up the passing game a little. Maybe they'll stack the box. Carlos Hyde, I took on the other side of the turn in the 4th round. I think he's still the guy in San Francisco. A lot of people banging the drum for Joe Williams this offseason, but he's disappointed. Carlos Hyde seems clearly the guy. He's been good even in a bad offense throughout his career, and I think he's an underrated player, so happy to grab him there. And then ended up taking Sammy Watkins after the trade to the Rams, and then Dalvin Cook at the 5-6 turn. Another high upside receiver. Hopefully Jared Goff will sling the rock towards him, look his way frequently. Obviously huge talent, a lot of upside with Sammy Watkins. Dalvin Cook's a guy I really like. He's certainly going to beat out Latavius Murray on talent there. Looks like he's been getting early down work, goal line work, and passing down work. So I hope to see him on the field plenty. He's definitely rising upwards. So looks like a good value in the 6th round. And then I got Pierre Garçon in the 7th round. Nice high floor guy there to counterbalance some of my high upside, potentially lower floor receivers. So maybe plug him in the flex spot several weeks. Should be the favorite target of Brian Hoyer, I think, and he's more than competent. And then, as I said, late round quarterback and tight end, I was able to grab Eric Ebron in the 9th and Mariota in the 10th. So addressed both positions at the turn there. I like Ebron. I think he'll be in for a good year. They should run some more 2 tight end sets to free up Ebron in the passing game, so maybe we'll see some more work out of him. Hopefully a little positive touchdown regression. And Mariota, ultra-efficient quarterback, especially in the red zone. Definitely a run-first team, but he's still gotten the job done. Between something like weeks 5 and 13, highest scoring fantasy player last year in the entire league. So, maybe we'll see a good stretch from him. Definitely happy to get him in the 10th round. And then my bench just kind of shoot for the moon, some high upside guys. So I took Jamal Williams, kind of hoping he steals that job from Ty Montgomery. He's looked good early in preseason, definitely a guy I'm high on, and that can be a very lucrative job. Grab Marvin Jones, solid Detroit passing attack. Nice to get another piece of that. He was obviously good early last year. And then Zay Jones, rookie on the Bills. Now that they got Jordan Matthews and Zay Jones, got Sammy Watkins gone, Anquan Bolden retired. Hoping that we can see him become the number one target there in a Buffalo passing attack that's kind of lukewarm, but hopefully we'll see him peppered with targets. So happy with how my team turned out. A lot of high upside guys, definitely shooting for the moon. So we could see it all combust. But like where the team's at right now.
Go back to Allen Robinson. When you're talking about Allen Robinson there in the third round, some people might view that as a little too early for Allen Robinson since he had such a disappointment last year. But you have to remember that fantasy is completely different from the actual football game. You want to score as many points as you can, no matter how you get them. I think Blake Bortles was the king of garbage time last year. He ended up as the fifth ranked quarterback. It doesn't matter if your team is, doesn't matter if the player's team is winning or losing, really, for fantasy purposes. As long as they're scoring you points and winning you games, that's really all that matters. So I think with the opportunity that Allen Robinson has and the talent that he has, Blake Bortles is going to find him, especially after the disappointing season last year. He's just going to try to keep finding him until they either pull him or something drastic happens. But really like the pick of Allen Robinson. I really think he's going to be really great for you this year.
Yeah, certainly a polarizing player. Definitely one I'm higher on than a lot. I think it's kind of short-sighted for those who are a little lower.
Yeah.
We all remember the 2015 breakout season. I think he'll fall somewhere in between 2015 and 16, which would be nice value there at the end of the third. And maybe he'll get some nice negative game script. I don't think they'll be a great team this year, so hopefully they'll be throwing the ball quite a bit. But
for sure.
I agree with the comments there.
Can we just talk about all of the fantasy buzzwords Mark threw out in that analysis of his draft?
Hey, that's what we're here for.
I was impressed.
We're here for the buzzwords.
I was impressed by all of that.
I told you I did my homework.
First time ever.
I feel like we should start instituting some kind of like bingo game.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Because
drinking game, obviously.
Or you know what? That too for our older
where everyone survives. I don't know. I like bingo and drinking, so
definitely add both of them. Add upside to the list of drinks, collusion and upside.
Now everyone has high upside.
All right, well, that'll wrap up the draft recap here of our individual teams. Thanks for listening to the Z Gentleman podcast. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back to Z Gentleman Fantasy Football Podcast. Our last section tonight here is just to kind of recap some of the other draft picks that we saw around the league. We already talked about our own teams, gave you a little bit of insight as to what we were thinking from our specific slots. So hopefully that'll help you based on whether you're early, middle, or late in your draft order to see how kind of we handled that and what kind of picks we made, what we were looking for. So, guys, I have a few questions here for everybody to see what they thought of our draft. First one, definitely a big one. Who do you think drafted the best team besides you? Ignoring injuries and trades since, just looking at the draft overall, because I know we've had a little action since then. Who had the best team other than yourself? Why do you think that? Who do you like on their team? I'll pass it off to John. You want to start?
Yeah. As much as it pains me to say it, even before the trade, I still think Chris is the team that scares me going into the season. I think Todd Gurley had like a just rough year last year, but he's too good not to at least rebound from that. And then to pair that with Le'Veon Bell in the backfield is definitely scary. Me giving him Doug Baldwin definitely does help, but I think even before that, when he had Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, is a really solid team.
And Keenan Allen. Don't forget Keenan Allen. Everyone forgets Keenan Allen.
I forget him because he has like a lacerated spleen or something. So
he has the craziest injuries of all time.
Total fluke injury.
But yeah, I mean, even you got a guy like Mike Wallace too, and then it's a scary team. I don't know if he'll three-peat, but it's definitely one that I wouldn't want to face any given Sunday. Haha. And A team that I don't really like is Drake's team. Um, he has two number one pre-ranked positions. That would be his defense and his kicker. Uh, that's not really scaring me a whole lot, considering what a defensive kicker can actually bring you. And then Jordan Howard and Joe Mixon as his backs. Michael Thomas is a stud wide receiver, but Drew Brees finds a way to get all of his receivers involved. I feel like any given week, Michael Thomas's value could be a little bit less. DeAndre Hopkins, I've been burned by him more times than I'd care to admit. He's a great receiver, but I feel like his value is not always there. Golden Tate's a great one at his flex. He'll probably move up, probably even into his normal receiving core. Good there, and then Derek Carr, obviously a great season last year. We'll see if he can keep it up, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just not overwhelmed by Drake's team. It might just be because I'm never overwhelmed by Drake's teams, and it's just messing with me. But I'm not high in it. And I know Mark, we were talking before. You disagree with me on this. Surprise, surprise. Yeah.
Good segue there. Let me jump in and go next here. So, my team, my favorite team, other than my own. Chris is a solid. I agree with that. That's a nice pick. But my favorite is actually Drake's team. And so I'll walk you through my thoughts anyway. I like the pick of Derek Carr. I think we might see a little regression from him with Marshawn Lynch because I think they might try to run the ball a little more, especially in the red zone. But I think a solid pick there, nice passing attack. I like Howard and I like Joe Mixon. Especially we just saw earlier today or yesterday, Jeremy Hill got banged up. I think Joe Mixon's going to win that job anyway. This kid is a freak. I mean, if you watched any of his games at Oklahoma, the guy is just a complete stud. I think that's a decent enough offense that he can get plenty of work there. Jordan Howard's obviously the focal point of the Chicago offense. And then Michael Thomas, I mean, what can we say? This guy's a stud. Drew Brees is going to throw the ball, 100 times a game. Michael Thomas has huge touchdown upside. He could see a lot of scores this year, I think. I'm higher on Hopkins, and I think a lot of others as well. I think Deshaun Watson's going to be the QB down there. They got the Clemson connection. I know Hopkins himself has come out and said he wants Tom Savage, and he endorses Savage for the job. But either way, it can't be worse than Brock Osweiler. So hopefully we'll see Hopkins rebound from a rough 2016 campaign. Zach Ertz was one of the tight ends I mentioned late on. I think he's a big beneficiary in Philadelphia of Jordan Matthews leaving. Should see a lot of work over the middle, I think, and especially with Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, it could be wide open for him all day long. Love him as a tight end. Golden Tate, definitely an underrated guy, especially in PPR. Definitely the number one receiver there in Detroit. And what really got me, though, is his bench. I like the bench depth. We got Mike Gillislee, probably the number one back in New England. I know that's unpredictable, but definitely a prolific offense, high scoring. Deshaun Jackson, nice guy that can take the top off of defense. More of a bye week replacement, I think, but a nice option there. And then Jonathan Stewart, I think he's still a guy in Carolina. A lot of hype around McCaffrey, but I think we'll see Jonathan Stewart on first and second down and potentially in the red zone. McCaffrey more of the passing down back. So I think Stewart's still got some gas in the tank. I like the pick there. Corey Davis, nice option in Tennessee's passing game. Could become a nice security blanket there for Mariota. Samaje Perine, another rookie out of Oklahoma, played alongside Joe Mixon. I think he'll take that job from Rob Kelly. Rob Kelly was an undrafted free agent. Let's not forget that. He's like a worse version of Eddie Lacy, as one of the analysts I like, Mike Tagliere, says. And that is just not a nice thing to say. So I think Perine will take that job. I think he's more talented. Nice offense there in Washington, too. John Ross, not too hot on him. We'll see how that turns out. But I think solid team, nice bench depth. And then on the flip side, I think Matus is probably my least favorite team. He's got Kirk Cousins, nice QB there, no complaints. DeMarco Murray and AJ Green, top running back receiver, no complaints on those either. But LeGarrette Blount, I think that was a big reach. I just don't see it in Philadelphia. This is a guy that I don't think he's a great running back. They got too many options there. And Wendell Smallwood, Darren Sproles is still hanging around. A couple of rookies there making noise too. So I just don't see it. I don't see the volume. Alshon Jeffrey, definitely a big injury concern. Who knows how many games he'll play. Could be good, but definitely worries me. Julius Thomas, he waited till like the last round, I think, to draft a tight end here. Not a big fan of the pick. I think he could have gone a little earlier and taking a tight end earlier. Just don't think Julius Thomas is the pick there. I think he'll be very touchdown dependent. We'll see some inconsistency. Jarvis Landry, not a guy I'm high on. It seems like Miami's not intent on re-signing him, and I think he's on the way out. I think Devontae Parker takes a step forward, so I just don't see it for Landry this year. Not a lot of bench depth, I think. Eddie Lacy, guy that looks like he might be losing the job there in Seattle already, to Thomas Rawls. Tevin Coleman, he's the number 2 in Atlanta. We know that. I think he takes a step backward now. That offense in general, I think, takes a step backward after a huge 2016. Doug Martin suspended. Jaquiz Rogers looked good last year when he was in, so who knows if Martin wins that job and he comes back. He's looked good, so it's possible. Definitely risky. Adam Thielen, just a guy. Second option in Minnesota, probably third, even behind Rudolph. Not excited about that. Derrick Henry, nothing but a handcuff to Murray. Could be a league winner if Murray goes down. Nice RB1 there for sure, but not excited about that pick, although I think you have to handcuff Murray in that Tennessee offense. And Kenny Stills, just a guy, third option there in Miami. Don't think we'll see much from him. So definitely my league's favorite team.
Yeah, surprisingly, I'd actually have to agree with you, Mark.
Well, I'll pass it off to you then.
Yeah, I was looking over the teams yesterday, and I kept coming back to Matus's team for whatever reason. I was like, man, I have no confidence in anyone else other than like DeMarco Murray and Kirk Cousins. Running backs, LeGarrette Blount as your number 2. He just won't fall into touchdowns like he did in New England, and basically his spot right now is up in the air in Philadelphia. You really don't know where he fits in that offense other than, all right, we get it down to the 1-yard line. Here's a touchdown. Take it. Don't know how much work he's going to see. Smallwood, just a battle for the job right there. Don't really know what's going on in Philly. Alshon Jeffrey, same thing. Putting a lot of faith in the Philly offense here with Alshon and LeGarrette. Alshon definitely going to end up on more injury reports than he will score touchdowns this year. Julius Thomas, Jarvis Landry, same thing. Cutler's throwing him the ball, so maybe Julius Thomas gets back to his ways. But I just don't see it with those guys. That's a starters.
Run-first offense, too, no doubt.
Yeah.
Down there in Miami.
Yeah. I mean, especially now with the Ajayi kind of exploding there. Maybe Adam Gase decides to have Cutler, hook it up with Julius Thomas a lot, but I really just don't see it. And Jarvis Landry, like you said, is on the way out. I mean, I've been seeing things that maybe the Patriots want to go after him now that Edelman's out. You can give up a pick for him. So he's definitely moved down the list of that Miami wide receiver core. Devontae Parker going to be great this year, I think. I like Doug Martin. I think he's going to win that job once he comes back from his 3-game suspension. But other than that, Eddie Lacy, he showed absolutely nothing last year, and you haven't been able to see it this year in preseason. So
still plenty of upside.
Still plenty of upside, but everyone's got upside. I don't know. I just don't see it with Matus's team this year. It's just not my favorite.
Can't wait for him to listen to this.
Yeah.
As our
shout out to the best man. Shout out to the best man, but I wish you luck. That's all I can say. I wish you luck. Now, as for the best team, it's got to be Dibs. That's about all I can say. I think he put together a fantastic draft. He has LaShawn McCoy as his number 1 pick. Fantastic. And he has Ezekiel Elliott as his running back, too. Now, obviously, 6-game suspension. That's really up in the air. We have no idea how many games he's actually going to be suspended for. He might play the entire season. He might play 12 games, be suspended 4. Might play 10. You never know. But I really like him as that number 2 spot there because once he does come back, if he can finish 500 or just above 500 in those 7 weeks that he's gone because of the bye week, I think Dibs has set himself up for fantastic success down the road. Cam Newton as his starting quarterback, I really think he's going to bounce back this year. After pretty okay 2016, great quarterback 2015, 2014. LaShawn McCoy, there's nothing else in Buffalo right now besides LaShawn McCoy, and they are just going to feed him until his legs fall off. Michael Crabtree, Larry Fitzgerald as his 2 wide receivers. Very underrated Larry Fitzgerald. I feel like everyone forgets about him. They think he's too old, can't do much of anything. Wide receiver 13 last year. I think before that he was wide receiver 11, if I'm not mistaken. So
Led the league in targets or receptions. Can't remember
Yeah.
which last year as well.
yeah, so especially in the PPR league now, definitely a great pick there, and I really like that spot that he has there. Jordan Reed as his tight end, if healthy, fantastic. Same thing. I feel like that's always the question with the tight ends. If they're healthy, the top end tight ends are primo, top 4 or 5, absolutely fantastic. Tyreek Hill, gonna be good. It's one of those things. I guess now that Spencer Ware is down, you might see another volume to the offense there with Kareem Hunt. But Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, I think they could be a very good offense this year. He won't score as many touchdowns as he did last year. He scored on just an insane amount of touches. I think it was like 14% of his touches he scored a touchdown. So don't know, or some crazy number like that. Don't think that'll be replicated, but PPR league, he'll definitely get the touches. He'll definitely get the opportunity to score. Cardinals D, fantastic once again. His depth gets a little shaky. That's about the only reason why I was hesitant to say that he has the best team, but I think his starting lineup is set up for success and could be really, really dangerous as he moves down the stretch, especially into playoff time once Ezekiel Elliott comes back. So those are my choices for best team, worst team.
It's a good pick. Good pick.
Yeah.
I like the Zeke comments, and I think
Yeah.
something people don't remember necessarily is Tom Brady had the whole suspension, and that was
Right.
deferred a year. So it's possible
Right.
we see Zeke play Week 1 this year too. If
Right,
that's held up
exactly.
in court.
So, yeah.
So.
I definitely think that is actually going to be the route that he goes down. I feel like that his camp has such a strong sense on the situation, feelings towards his suspension, that if the NFL does uphold his 6-game suspension, slap an injunction on that, he's going to play the entire year. So, especially as his number 2 running back, that's insane. That's great value, and already has great wide receivers to go with it. So, I think if Zeke does play early on, I don't know if anyone's going to stop that team. So,
No doubt.
shout out to Dibs. Great team.
Awesome. Eric, we'll pass it off to you. It's your turn to pick sides here. Who do you like? Who don't you like?
I almost thought you guys forgot about me. I've just been sitting here waiting.
No,
Oh, we'll
Same
never
best.
forget about you, Eric. We'll never forget about you.
Okay, good.
I kind of forgot for a second. That's
Thank you,
not-
John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit, but
John's just a dick.
not that much.
So, I originally had a team set for each, and while you guys were talking, I kind of did a little bit more research, and I actually came up with 2 teams that none of you guys have mentioned for best team, worst team, just based off of drafting. And my best team that I've saw, and just kind of going over it over and over again, this team fears me a lot. And this gentleman does not get a lot of recognition in our fantasy league. We kind of throw him out to the side because sometimes he tends not to put too much time into it. And it's our good friend Ramel. I'm looking at his team, and I gotta tell you, all right, you go off the top of the bat, Drew Brees, probably gonna throw another 5,000 yards this year. Devontae Freeman stays healthy, my guess, top 3 running back in the league. C.J. Anderson, yeah, he's coming off an injury-prone year, and it's a tight backfield there in Denver, but if he can kind of find his form, who says he's not gonna kind of take the reins that he's done in years past? You got Demaryius Thomas, who is the number 1 guy in Denver. Now, yes, there's a little bit of QB controversy in a way. It's Trevor Siemian to start, but maybe it's Paxton Lynch down the line. You got Jordan Matthews, who, if healthy, is the number 1 in Buffalo, and if Tyrod Taylor stays healthy, he's going to get a lot of targets.
Well, at the beginning of the draft, Ramel did have Julian Edelman there, so it looks much better than right now.
Oh, yes, he did.
I'll
He
say that,
did
yeah.
have Edelman, and unfortunately,
So-
with the complete ACL tear, that has derailed him a
Yeah.
little bit. But then you follow up with Delaney Walker, and was a guy I had last year. Who I think was my highest scoring guy. Theo Riddick, who is going to be, outside of Amir Abdullah in Detroit, he's going to get his fair share of looks. You got the Patriots defense, they're never the they're never the flashiest bunch, but they get the job done every single week. It's guys like Malcolm Butler. It's just they're not the stars, but they're really good. And then you got my favorite kicker, the Brazilian Superman himself, Cairo Santos. Then on the bench, John Brown, Darren Sproles, the Seahawks D, which
2 defenses.
I mean, the Seahawks D can still be the Seahawks D. Jack Doyle, who I've really starting to like out in Indy, and Jay Cutler. Now, a lot of that is all dependent on injury proneness, but honestly, if his team stays healthy, I don't see a lot of other teams beating him right now. I just, and now that's me, but that's just kind of how I'm seeing it. And on the backside, the team now, I don't think there was really anybody that drafted poorly. So I'm going to go with the team that I thought, I'm just not sure that the draft was the greatest. Now, I'm not saying they did a horrible job, but I'm just saying that, this team maybe doesn't scare me as much as other teams.
Way too diplomatic. Just tell them they suck.
Well, diplomacy is...
just tell Mark he sucks.
No, I'm actually going with Brett on this one.
Brett, intriguing.
I look at Brett's team, and I'm...
Intriguing.
Now, people are going to question me as soon as I say his quarterback is Matt Ryan and his running back is David Johnson. I know the hate mail is coming my way already.
Those guys are pretty good, Eric.
You've seen enough running backs come into this league in their rookie year, and everyone's talking about, they're going to be fantastic. He's got Leonard Fournette. Now, let's go previous in the Jacksonville. They had a decent running back out of college by the name of T.J. Yeldon. Exactly. Now, is Fournette a lot more talented than T.J. Yeldon? Probably. But the thing is, Jacksonville has not fixed that big issue, and that's the offensive line. Doesn't matter how talented you are. If you can't hold the front five, doesn't matter how good your running back is, he's not going to go anywhere.
Unless
so that's why I'm a little
tied.
Well, we'll debate that one
Chicago
later.
side.
But so I'm a little hesitant on him. Brandon Cooks, I'm just always hesitant with the New England wide receiver because you never know in that Bill Belichick system. You never know who's going to get the ball unless you're Rob Gronkowski, obviously, and you're healthy. But if you're a wide receiver or a running back on that team, Brady spreads the ball so well that you don't know who's going to shine. Devontae Parker, not really sold on him in that Miami offense. Chicago watching Jay Cutler throw the ball a lot. He's erratic. He's, when he's on, he's top 5 quarterback, but there hasn't been enough of that in his career so far.
Top 5. That's big.
Oh, yeah. We'll get into another conversation about that. Even though I'm a Packers fan and I detest the Chicago Bears, I will make the argument that when Jay Cutler actually puts his mind into a game, he's a top 5 quarterback easily.
I think that's the nicest thing anyone has said about Jay Cutler, and it's coming from a Packers fan, and I don't know how to feel about it.
I think it's the most false thing anyone's ever said about Jay Cutler.
Like I said, I'd be happy to debate that on another podcast, but I know we're talking about best and worst, so I'll keep on going here. Kyle Rudolph, it's also depending on the quarterback situation up there. Sam Bradford is a great quarterback, but he's kind of dink and dunk a lot. He'll throw the ball 40 times and he'll have 25 receptions for 200 yards. So it's yes, Kyle Rudolph's good in the red zone, but they got that offense has got to kind of pick up. What they 1-7 in their last 8 games last year, and he was almost a ghost in the wind, Kyle Rudolph. So we'll see how that turns out. I mean, Dante Moncrief, he's got to stay healthy this year. The Texans defense, I'm okay with. I think they're a solid bunch. And then you've got Sebastian Janikowski. I don't know how much longer he can keep kicking, but
forever. As long as he keeps drinking,
it's
keep kicking.
It's the more and more that turns into the Derek Carr show out there. Less and less chances for him to kick. And then you go to the bench. Willie Snead was off and on last year, health wise. Forte's not going to see that much this year with Bilal Powell really taking the reins there with the Jets. Kenny Britt's a nice addition in Cleveland, so we'll see what happens there. Phillip Rivers, I love Phillip Rivers. He just turns the ball over way too much. Austin Hooper, great tight end pick, but once again, on a team where you got a quarterback that spreads the ball out, to 7, 8 different guys a game. And then you got J.J. Nelson in Arizona, which, I feel like Carson Palmer's one injury away from, his career being done. So I know it's kind of nitpicking a lot of different things, but I think at the end of the day, it's all about the injury. And you can go and look at any of these teams that we have drafted right now, and you can say, wow, if they're healthy, they're going to be really good, unless you're John.
In which case, your team is never healthy, and then you're never good. Yeah, we get it.
Exactly.
Get it.
No, I'm just
My
making
team
a
is
point.
made of glass.
Well, I'm glad you admit it, at least, John.
I'm personally excited for Brett to listen to that if he listens. I think that'll make him happy. And by happy,
Brett's
I mean
always
not
happy.
happy, which will make me happy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, this is not to. We talk about shit talking, and we're gonna do a lot of that this year. But this is once again, this is our opinions. I'll tell you right now, they don't mean shit.
Hey, John said I had the best
That's
team,
true.
so I'm taking that to heart. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna trade you inevitably a top 5 wide receiver. So just be on the lookout for that, man.
perfect. I'll look out for it in week 7.
Deal. Well, guys, I got a couple more questions. Talk about steals and reaches. So let's go quick around the horn. Talk about somebody that had a good steal pick that fell to them nicely. Somebody who picked a guy too early. So I'll kick it off. John, you obviously got Travis Kelce at 5.07. 7th pick of the 5th round, 55 overall. I think that's an absolute steal, especially when you look at the tight ends that went around him. We get into one of the guys that I think was the worst reach. Ramel picked Delaney Walker at 5.06, number 54 overall. Delaney Walker went the pick right before Travis Kelce, which just makes no sense to me. Just absolutely no sense. I don't know what he was thinking there. Jimmy Graham actually went the pick after. Would have taken him over Walker as well. And then we talked about Matt Ryan. I think he's another guy that Brett reached for. Took him right at the end of the 4th round there. Number 48 overall. I think that's a little early. I mean, that offense was just lights out last year. I don't think we see it again. And put up anywhere near the same numbers as last year. I think he kind of goes back towards his career average, which is, the road QB for fantasy. But I just don't think he's that top option like Brett's expecting with a pick of that value. Pass it around the room. Go start with Eric this time. Who do you like? What's a good bad pick?
I mean, and Chris made mention of this, and that's all I've been thinking about since he made mention. I think the steal of the draft was Keenan Allen.
Yeah, it's a nice pick.
I mean,
Everyone forgets about Keenan Allen. Everyone forgets that Keenan Allen is really good.
Keenan Allen, and I had Keenan Allen his very first year in a separate league, and was a major reason. That was actually one of the few times I've actually won a fantasy league, which is weird. It never happens. But no, Keenan Allen's a fantastic wide receiver, and he's still young. That he's had 2 of the most obscure injuries.
Like, if he had the worst of the worst injuries, he had 2 of them. Just a stroke of bad luck for Keenan Allen. That's all I'm going to say. Still fantastic.
Yeah.
He's just really unlucky.
Yeah, and I mean, he's gonna have a good chance to do well this year. And I think, what is it? I believe is it Mike Williams is over there now in LA, and he's now on IR.
Nice rookie. Nice rookie.
Yeah, nice rookie, but hurt. So see what happens there.
So we'll see about that. And I'm gonna kind of throw myself under the bus here. I think I made the worst reach by going with Rob Gronkowski in the 2nd round. I think sometimes in this, and including myself, I think other, when folks go out and draft, they kind of panic themselves thinking, just by judging how the draft is going, that, oh, maybe this guy's not going to be there, my next pick, or this, it's the second round. And, kind of, I see where this is going. And, it's kind of, going into one direction. Maybe I need to pop to the other. And, I just think Gronkowski's great. Gronkowski's probably going to go down as one of the best tight ends ever to play this game. But after, how many years in a row, back issues, he's talked about that he's, redone his diet, redone his workouts to, strengthen, his body so he can last the season. But, all it takes is one just awkward hit and there goes the back again.
Yeah.
So
we'll see. It could be a league winner if he stays healthy. No doubt.
If he stays healthy, he'll be the number one tight end. I think he's going to fight for, and I've seen other, I think it was the folks over at ESPN. I know Matthew Berry was talking about and Field Yates were talking about this a little bit ago. They're talking Jimmy Graham this year as being possibly the number one tight end. So I think all year we're going to be talking about Jimmy Graham and Gronkowski, if he stays healthy, as being, the 1-2 combination of tight ends in this league. So we'll see. So like I said, I'm kind of throwing myself under the bus there. I think I may have jumped the gun on Gronkowski at least a round or two early. But that's just kind of where it is.
Hey, I like the pick. I like the pick. So
I also like the pick.
Yeah, I don't think you reached for that one.
Well,
anyways, I appreciate the candidness.
I appreciate the niceness thrown my way. But that's going to end right now. John, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I was not expecting people to talk tight ends as much as they were going to, but I have another one. Mark, you mentioned Delaney Walker. I think that was, a reach. I was glad to get Kelsey on the next pick. But let's talk Brent going Greg Olsen, round 4, pick 38. With Travis Kelsey and Jordan Reed both still on the board. Brent goes Greg Olsen. I don't know.
Brent just has a giant man crush on Greg Olsen.
And
he has
I'm going to be honest, Greg Olsen's one of my favorite Bears players of all time. I love him, but with Travis Kelsey and Jordan Reed still on the board, I don't know how you take Greg Olsen in that scenario.
Agree.
I think I looked at his average draft positions, like tight end 4 at 45. He took him at 38, so on paper it doesn't look like a crazy reach. But with just
whoever was out there.
Yeah, with who is left on the board, it's definitely a reach.
Yeah, tight ends were falling.
Yeah, my biggest reach of the draft, I'm going to give it to Mikey Mike, taking the Broncos defense, round 9, pick 104. Broncos are going off as the number 1 defense in terms of draft position. They're projected to get a little over 101 points this season. I did the math. The Titans are the lowest ranked defense. They're projected to get 95 points. You divide that out over a course of a 16-week season, it's 0.4 points a game more the Broncos are supposed to get than the Titans. It makes no sense to pick a defense.
Yep.
And the Browns that are not the second to last or the last round, and Mikey Mike goes and snags one in round 9. And it's just crazy.
Agree.
One pick I'm just not sure if I think it's a reach or a steal is the Ezekiel Elliott pick. Dibs gets him round 2, pick 21. He's going off at an average of pick 27 or 28. But yeah, I mean, if he gets that suspension, move back, if he gets cut, he could be, the Zeke that we all expect him to be. So time will tell on that one. But I'm just not sure how I feel about that one.
Yeah, could easily return top 5 overall value if he plays the season. But, if he misses 6 games, you're looking at Darren McFadden, who's a big drop-off.
Yeah.
Still decent, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd say he's that much of a drop-off. Look what he did with that. And it's pretty much the same offensive line in Dallas. Look what he did with that offensive line. Was that 2 years ago? Was that 1,400 yards?
Yeah, I'm not saying that he's bad. I know.
I'm just saying,
level of goodness.
I would agree. I'm just saying I don't know if I would say a huge drop off. I'd say
I'm just saying to use your number 2 pick on a guy who could miss 6 games of the season at a point where you could be 1-5 at that point and be out of the playoff picture. It's bold risk. I commend Dibs for taking it.
Yeah.
We'll see how it works
Yeah.
out.
Here's the thing with McFadden, though. I mean, if you have Zeke in there 16 games, he's the number 3 pick overall, third running back off the board, no question
No
about
doubt.
it. If McFadden's playing 16 games, can you say the same thing? I mean, do you take him ahead of McCoy? I don't. Like,
No.
do you take him
No,
ahead
a
of
chance.
no, but
Melvin
I would.
Gordon, Devontae
but I would-
Freeman? No, I mean, I'm
No,
taking
but
him
I'm
after
s-
Todd Gurley, probably.
I'm
end of the
saying
second round.
he's probably running back somewhere between 10 and 15.
Yeah, I mean,
If he
back end
plays the whole
RB1,
season.
front end RB2
Yeah.
potentially. It's probably about right, but
Yeah.
it's definitely a drop off. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, I know. Yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
actually
Chris.
that was actually one of my favorite picks. I actually like the pick of Zeke there because he already had LaShawn McCoy, and really the only you need wide receiver depth at that point with your first pick being running back. Wide receivers left on the board at that choice: Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, and then Dibs took Michael Crabtree. So I like the pick, especially with what was left and what everyone else had taken already. I really like the pick there. I think it's going to pay off for him down the line. He's going to love that pick. Steal the draft, already said. Travis Kelce, I don't know how he fell to you at 55, at pick 55 there. Just absolute steal. Congrats, John.
That'll be the guy I trade to you. So
Perfect. I'm looking forward to it. I'll put it down in the book right now. Reach of the draft. That is not a defense. Ramel took John Brown with the 78th overall pick, where his average draft position is 135. So I commend him for feeling strongly about John Brown and wanting to take him. Do I think it'll pay off? No, I don't think it will. So have fun with John Brown. That's all I can say, Ramel.
Yeah, guy I like, but not that early. Definitely
No,
agree there.
yeah, I mean I like him, but I don't like him
Not there.
in the 7th
Yeah, what's
round. I
that?
think that's what it was.
60 picks. You're basically moving up to take them. That's a lot.
Yeah, I mean Pierre Garcon was left on the board. Brandon Marshall was left on the board. Wide receiver wise, Deshaun Jackson, Eric Decker, Devontae Parker, Tyrell Williams, Jeremy Maclin. I could just keep going on and on.
But John Brown.
But I mean John
But
Brown.
John Brown.
But John Brown. So I commend you for the gusto, Ramel.
Yeah, definitely a good choice there. I think we talked about next couple of questions. I had a few picks that surprised us. I mean, talked about several of the sleepers there, or steals of the draft. Surprised us negatively. We talked about some guys that were reached for. I think we covered some good content here, guys.
I've just
any
got a
other-
long list of picks that surprised me. If you want to just give me like 40 more minutes to talk about them.
No, we're probably already at about 50 minutes now. I think the good folks at home are.
I mean, Greg Olson at 38. That was like my biggest surprise negatively. I was like, oh, sure, go ahead, take Greg Olson, man crush.
Yeah,
Mark, I
definitely
liked
a
your
few
Dalvin
odd
Cook
picks.
too.
Thanks, man. I like it too.
At 61, could end up as a running back 1, and I think he's your third running back
Yeah.
on your team. So
He was. I think he will. I like the team. I got 3 solid running backs. Him is my third, so
yeah,
I like the
Brett
pick as
took
well.
Willie Snead and Dante Moncrief. I mean, they're okay, but took Snead with Emmanuel Sanders, Larry Fitzgerald, Kelvin Benjamin, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Jamison Crowder on the board. Moncrief, there was Diggs, Crowder, Garcon, Marshall on the board. I don't know. Could pay off, I guess, but those are my.
We'll
those
see
are
as
my
the season
surprise
goes
picks.
on.
Yeah.
More episodes to talk about all that, see how it shakes out. But I'll go
I
around
just
the
like to
horn
say
real
that I
quick.
didn't take any bad picks. That's what I'm going with.
True. All right, round the horn real quick. Any last remarks here? Comments for the fans?
Well,
Hi, Matus.
yes, hi, Matheus. Hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you made it this far, congratulations.
Hopefully your brain isn't blown out from med school already.
Actually, there is kind of one more thing we wanted to do, and I just kind of thought about this. We're probably going to end this show with a little bit of a pick'em segment. Maybe we'll go around. We'll pick a couple of the games that interest us. For the week ahead. Obviously, since this is still the preseason, especially week 4 of the preseason, nobody's going to be playing. Hence, not really a good time to do any picks from the NFL. But
Hey, the Bears are playing the Browns, so I'm definitely going to be watching that game.
good for you. You're probably going to be one of like 100 people to watch it. Anyways,
Beautiful.
since it isn't truly the NFL season yet, in a way. We got a great college football kickoff on Saturday. Seminoles, Crimson Tide. Who you got and why?
I got the Crimson Tide because they're better than the Seminoles.
I got Bama as well. I mean, it's hard to root against that or bet against that defense. I mean, always a strong team, tough to score points on. Got several returning players there on the offensive side. I think they got a strong team. I think they're ranked number 1 for a reason. Solid team all around. Going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, they're really good.
John?
I'm gonna take the University of Illinois Fighting Illini over Ball State. I really do not
Going
know.
off the beaten path, John.
Yeah,
I like
don't know enough about Bama, Florida State, to be honest. Bama, why not?
Yeah, it's unanimous. Bama, Jalen Hurts this year, you got to think he's going to be a front runner maybe for the Heisman, or at least going to be up there. Bama's returning pretty much everyone on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be a little weird now. We'll see how they adjust from the Lane Kiffin school of offense to what they got this year. And Saban, just that defense, they could have, a down year and still be a top 5 team or top 5 school on defense. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a great game. Don't get me wrong. I think Florida State's going to give them a run at some point. I think it might be close in the beginning, but you're going to get in the second half, and that experience is just going to take over. Bama all the way. My guess, 45. I'd say 45-21. I think Bama's going to get off.
Aggressive.
I think Bama's going to get off to a good start. It's, there's not. I don't know. It's the first week. I don't know who's going to really kind of, stick out at the beginning of the season because you don't get these good matchups this early on. But I think if, Bama comes out strong, it's going to be a real precursor to what's going to happen the rest of the year in college football. So that's all.
I'll still take the Browns defense over the Alabama defense. Just putting it out there.
I think we'll have that conversation for another day. But
all right. Well, I think it's probably about time to call it a wrap here. On behalf of my guys, Chris, Eric, and John, thank you to our one listener, Matus, and anybody else who accidentally clicked this in iTunes or Google Play. We appreciate you.
Or YouTube.
Yeah, we love y'all. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening. Win at all costs. That's definitely the takeaway. And I'm also going to pound John in week 1.
Yep.
Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Most likely.
All right, we'll see you next time, peeps.
Adios.